and he has a strong character, a strong personality, and he's really healthy. And what he did worked for him. It's his personal biography. For him, this was the right way to go, the right path. But for others, this might not be the right way to go. There are people that get into very serious trouble using psychedelic drugs. You might get crazy, you might get insane, you might get a very serious mental disorder using such intoxicating drugs. Drugs like DMT or mushrooms have a very severe effect that is absolutely mind-blowing and breathtaking. So I personally took LSD in my youth, and that was really adventurous and breathtaking. So I am also strong. I could do it. But a few friends of mine got mad and they got mental disorders. It's really horrible. They are mentally handicapped to this day because of using intoxicating drugs. A neighbor thought he would be able to fly and jumped from a roof. He's been in a wheelchair for decades and still is. He really destroyed his life under the influence of such a drug. If you have the right mental setup, then the use of such a psychedelic drug might be safe, and you might find some kind of enlightenment. You might see and experience things from the spiritual world that are real, absolutely real, not hallucinations or imaginations. This is possible. I'm absolutely convinced that this is actually happening, especially with DMT. But it might be very risky. I would never, ever recommend anyone to use these drugs, to take them, never, ever. The only information that you will find in my books about intoxicating drugs is that you should not take them because they are dangerous. That does not mean they are necessarily dangerous for everyone. For some people, they might even be a medicine and heal mental disorders. But I'm not willing to take responsibility for using such drugs. I am for just being sober, stay sober. I'm not against medicine that can help to gain strength. This is fine from my point of view in most cases, of course, carefully, reasonably. But I will always recommend anyone not to use intoxicating drugs at all. So what he did was very fine for him. It might be fine for you too, but it might be the opposite. It might damage you. So everyone has to make such a decision for himself. The question is, how is it possible to find out if consuming these drugs is fine for a person? What are the criteria? I have my own theory about this, but I don't want to talk about this topic here. I will create a second video where I will go deeper into Aaron Berry's questions and the answers that I found that I can provide to his questions. I will talk about this in the second video. If you are interested in this to get into another perspective, which is my personal perspective, a different perspective than his, then you might be interested to watch the second video. I do not condemn intoxicating drugs. I consumed intoxicating drugs quite often in my youth. And when I did that, it was fine. But at a certain point, it was not fine anymore. I consumed these drugs after this point, and that was really not healthy at all. And I know people that got into very severe, serious trouble, especially people on the spiritual path. If you have your experiences, or if you are just interested in spirituality, psychology, philosophy, and you want to learn, this is the right book for you, especially as a beginner. But even if you are progressed, this is still quite interesting and valuable. I can just recommend this book. It's really a good book, a great book, and it's worth every penny or cent. It's really a very, very good, valuable book. So I hope that you found this review to be interesting. And if you want to know more about it, then just watch the second video or visit Aaron Berry's channel. Thank you.
Hey! Well, that was a wonderful synopsis, a great report and a great promotion. Thank you very much for that. I would just like to add a little bit on the end there in relation to the psychedelics,
Yes.
because personally, I have never known or met anyone who has had adverse effects. And all the people that I have listened to who have taken psychedelics, speak about them, promote them. You know, people like Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson. He's took 7 grams of mushrooms, and he speaks about his experience. There's no caveat in there because you know, and the whole of the 60s, passed by with one story of one person jumping out of a building whilst on LSD. Well, you know, I think personally, you know, that may have happened, but more probable it was CIA psyop. You know, lots of people jump out of buildings for lots of reasons, and all you'd need is someone that did jump out of a building to intend to kill themselves and then say they was on LSD. I haven't ever seen anything which is remotely indicative that LSD is bad for our brains, nor DMT, nor magic mushrooms. In actual fact, there are hospitals in several countries of the world where they are actually doing many, many studies using DMT and psilocybin, and they're saying that it's a miracle substance. And so, you know, the fear about psychedelics, I think personally, is very, very unfounded. But there always is going to be someone that is going to go, oh, but there's no neurological long-lasting effects to this that I've ever heard any reports of. And so if anybody else has, then, you know, I'm all ears. I think psychedelics, you know, are the most wonderful portals into very deep crevices of God consciousness. And without them, then very, very few people would ever have these experiences because it takes a long, long time. For instance, it would take you 30 or 50 years probably to have the same experience that you would have in 5 psychedelic experiences. That's the difference. And
Yes.
so that's all I'd like to add to that bit, because, you know, I'm not being reckless when I'm promoting, and I am actually promoting. I most certainly am promoting psychedelics because you know that I've only ever heard one story of someone in America once upon a time in the 60s jumping from a building on LSD and nothing else. I've never experienced that, and for years all of my friends were on all these different sorts of things, and nobody's ever gone into psychosis. So what's this story about your friend who's in a wheelchair now? I mean, what's the deal with him? What did he take? Acid?
I don't know exactly. Um, I don't know exactly. So there are more examples. He's not the only one. Two of my, like, they were really good friends. So one of them was my best friend, and the other one was a good friend. And both of them, they got really insane, completely insane. I mean, driving nuts for the whole life. They are mad. They cannot take part in the regular life, both of them. And this is like 30 years ago, and they are still insane. They need to take, medicine, special
So
stuff.
were they clinically diagnosed with some sort
Yes,
of mental disposition
yes,
directly responsible from LSD or something?
yes. It was clear. They got some stuff. I mean, they told me they got some stuff. They got high. They had whatever,